Welcome to the Curious Room. I'm just so glad you're here with us today.
Me too. It's really great to be here.
So, I want you to imagine, just for a second, that we aren't speaking through headphones or a speaker. I want you to imagine you've just walked into a really comfortable room.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, right? Like maybe there's a fireplace going, cracking just a little bit,
Yeah.
or maybe it's just a bright, sunny morning with that perfect kind of slanted light coming right through the window.
The kind that warms up the floorboards.
Exactly. And you sit down and the most comfortable chair, you can find one of those big chairs that just kind of hugs you when you sink into it. And you take a deep breath.
A real intentional breath.
Yeah. Because we're just friends here, sitting together, having a coffee or some tea, and we're just ready to talk.
That sounds incredibly peaceful. And I think that setting the scene like that, it's vital because the topic we're exploring in this deep dive usually feels the exact opposite of peaceful.
Oh, completely.
It feels like a siren going off in your head. It's heavy, it's urgent, and it's loud.
It is loud. So I want to start by asking you and asking our listener sitting right here with us a question. And I want you to be really honest.
Okay.
Have you ever been, say, lying in bed? Or maybe just scrolling through your phone while waiting for coffee, and you see a photo?
Oh, boy. The dreaded photo.
Right. It's a friend from high school or, maybe even a total stranger, and they just bought a massive house with a beautiful wraparound porch.
Or they just got this huge promotion to, senior vice president of something important.
Yes. Or they're on some incredible vacation in Italy, holding a glass of wine against a sunset, and suddenly, even though you were totally fine 5 seconds ago,
You were having a perfectly good day.
exactly, you're fine. But then you feel this heavy, sinking feeling right in your chest.
I know that feeling so well. It's visceral. It's not just a passing thought. It's an actual physical drop in your stomach.
Yeah, it feels like you missed a step on a staircase.
That is the exact sensation. It's a jolt.
It really is. It's this tightness. And the thought that pops into your head isn't usually, oh, good for them, they look so happy.
No, rarely.
The thought is almost always, oh no, I am so far behind.
Which is just one of the most universal feelings in the modern world. Honestly, I would argue it's a silent epidemic.
A silent epidemic. That's a strong way to put it, but it feels true.
We don't talk about it at parties. We certainly don't put it on our LinkedIn profiles, but almost everyone, regardless of how successful they look from the outside, has moments where they feel like they are losing a race they didn't even know they signed up for.
A race they didn't sign up for.
Wow.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive today. We aren't here to give you productivity hacks.
Please, no more productivity hack.
Right. We aren't going to tell you how to wake up at 4 a.m. so you can catch up to everyone else.
No, if anything, we want to look at why we feel the need to wake up at 4 a.m. in the first place. Like, why is the urge to catch up so overwhelmingly strong?
So today is about the opposite of rushing. It's about understanding why we feel this intense pressure. We're going to look at the psychology, the sociology, and even some of the biology behind this feeling of being behind.
We want to see if we can finally put down the stopwatch.
And embrace what we're calling the quiet pace of finding your own way.
I love that phrase, the quiet pace. And to do that, to really get there, we first have to name this feeling. We have to dissect it a bit.
Okay, let's dissect it.
You mentioned that physical sensation earlier, that sinking feeling. I think it's really important to acknowledge that feeling behind isn't just a neurotic thought process. It's a physiological state of stress.
It really is. Because for me, it doesn't always happen when I'm just scrolling social media. Sometimes it happens at night.
The night panics.
Yeah. I'll wake up at, say, 3:00 a.m. The house is totally quiet. And suddenly, my brain just starts playing a highlight reel of everything I haven't done yet.
It's the worst time for that to happen.
It's this restless, awful energy. It's like my brain is saying, you're this age and you haven't written a book yet, or you haven't traveled enough, or your savings account isn't anywhere near where it should be.
And that manifests as a tightness in the stomach.
Exactly. I'm just lying there staring at the ceiling, feeling my chest tighten up.
That 3:00 a.m. panic is very, very real. And let's look at the actual language we use there. The word behind.
Behind.
When you say you are behind, it implies a very specific geometry to life. It implies that life is a single, straight track.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It implies there is a starting line, a finish line, and most importantly, other runners on that exact same track.
Right, because you can't be behind if you're the only one running.
Exactly. If you're alone on a hike in the woods, you're never behind. You are just, you're just where you are.
You're just walking.
Right. But the moment you introduce the concept of being behind, you are actively acknowledging a competition. But here's the question I always like to ask when that feeling comes up, and it's a bit of a challenging one.
Lay it on us.
Who is holding the stopwatch?
Oof.
Like, who actually blew the whistle to start the race?
That is such a good question, because usually in those moments we feel like the whole world is holding the stop.
It feels like everyone is timing us.
But if you really look around the room at 3 a.m., nobody is there. It's usually just us holding it.
Well, yes and no. It definitely feels like it's just us, but we have actually internalized a very real sociological concept. There's a term for this in psychology called the social clock.
The social clock. I don't think I've heard that term before. Is that like a biological clock?
In a way, but it's cultural, not physical. The social clock describes the culturally preferred timing of social events.
Culturally preferred timing.
It's this invisible timeline that society sort of silently agrees upon for when you should do things, like when you should leave home, get married, have children, retire.
Ah. So it's basically the invisible checklist.
Precisely. It is a
Got it.
mental list of milestones that usually looks something like this: graduate by 22, get a serious career by 25.
Find a partner by 28.
Buy a house by 30, have kids by 32 or 35, make a partner or manager by 40.
Honestly, just hearing you say that list out loud makes me feel anxious. It's like I'm automatically ticking boxes in my head as you speak.
Oh, everyone does it.
I'm sitting here going, did that, miss that, did that one, definitely missed that one.
And that anxiety you're feeling right now, that is exactly the point. Psychologists argue that when we stick to this schedule, we feel a sense of social integration, we feel secure.
Like we belong.
Yes, but when we deviate, when we are off the clock, we experience significant psychological distress. We feel like outcasts.
But here's the thing that gets me. Where did this specific list come from? Did I sit down when I was 7 years old and write this list for myself?
I highly doubt it.
No. I wanted to be a dinosaur hunter when I was 7. I didn't care about a 401k or a mortgage.
Exactly. We inherited this list, and this is where the history gets really interesting. Much of this social clock was solidified during the post-WWII economic boom, particularly in the West.
Okay, the 1950s.
Right. You had a very linear economic trajectory that was suddenly available to a large middle class. You could get a job, buy a house, stay with that company for 40 years, and retire on a pension, all on a fairly predictable timeline.
So wait, are you saying we are judging our modern, chaotic, gay economy lives against a timeline designed for someone living in 1955?
100%. We're trying to measure a cloud with a straight ruler.
Oh, that's a brilliant way to put it.
The economic and social structures that build that specific clock have largely dissolved. Pensions are rare. The housing market is completely different. People change careers 5, 6, 7 times.
Yeah, nobody stays at the same job for 40 years anymore.
But the psychological expectation remains. We still feel the pressure of the 1955 timeline in today's world.
That is a huge realization. We are basically trying to live a ghost's life plan.
A ghost's life plan, exactly.
And when we don't hit those marks, we feel like we've failed. But really, we're just failing to be a person from the past.
Precisely. Life is inherently messy. It is organic. It doesn't follow a straight line. But we judge ourselves against a ruler that is perfectly straight.
I want to push back on this just slightly, though.
Go for it.
Because even if I know logically that the timeline is outdated, even if I know it's from 1955, the feeling of anxiety is still there.
Oh, knowing it doesn't make the feeling vanish.
Right. It feels so deep in my bones.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard to just let go of the clock? Is there something biological happening here too?
That is the right question to ask. It isn't just culture, it is evolution. We have to talk about social comparison.
Okay, let's get into it.
The core idea here is that human beings have an innate, deeply wired drive to evaluate their own opinions and abilities. We need to know where we stand, and how do we do that?
We compare ourselves to others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Without an objective standard, like a thermometer to tell you if you're hot or cold, we use other people as our benchmark.
So it's a survival thing.
Very much so. Think about it. In a tribe of early humans, knowing where you stood in the hierarchy was a literal survival mechanism. If you were the slowest runner or the worst hunter, you might be left behind. You might starve.
So that sinking feeling in my chest when I see someone else's success on my phone,
Yes.
that's my lizard brain thinking I'm going to get kicked out of the tribe.
Essentially, yes. Your brain perceives falling behind as a direct threat to your survival. It triggers the exact same stress response as seeing a predator.
Wow.
The problem is, our brain hasn't updated its software. It treats not buying a house by 30 with the same chemical urgency as not catching enough food for the winter.
That explains the intensity of it perfectly. It feels life or death because, evolutionarily speaking, it used to be. But today, it's just life.
Right. And this brings us to how we are raised. Because society doesn't just casually suggest this timeline, it structurally enforces it for the first 2 decades of our lives.
Oh, you mean school?
We have to talk about the school system.
Yes, let's unpack that. Because for the first, say, 18 to 22 years of our lives, we are immersed in a system that is designed to be hyperlinear.
It is literally numbered for you, first grade, second grade, third grade.
It's a conveyor belt. You just stand on it, you do the homework, and you move forward. You know exactly where you stand compared to everyone else at all times.
The expectations are crystal clear.
Right. If your friend is in grade 6 and you're in grade 6, you're on track. You get an A, you're winning. You get an F, you're losing.
Correct. And there is a historical reason for this rigid structure, too. The modern education system was largely modeled after the Prussian system in the 18th century.
The Prussian system. That sounds intense.
It was intense. It was designed to create obedient soldiers and highly efficient workers for the Industrial Revolution.
Wow.
It was designed to standardize people. It was all about efficiency, not individuality.
Standardize. That's a really chilling word when you apply it to human beings.
But it was highly effective for a factory-based economy. In school, everyone moves together in a herd. If you are in grade 5 and you pass the standardized tests, you automatically go to grade 6.
The path is totally laid out for you.
You don't have to choose your direction. You just have to keep up with the herd.
And we get addicted to that structure, don't we? We get so comfortable with the external validation of grades and moving up a level every single year.
We crave the syllabus.
We know exactly what an A looks like. But then you graduate.
And the conveyor belt just stops.
It just disappears right beneath your feet.
There is no grade 23. There is no syllabus for being 25. There is no principal popping into your apartment telling you that you're doing a good job at life.
Well, that's so true.
The structure creates a map, and adulthood completely removes it. And that sudden silence, that sudden lack of clear direction creates immense panic. We interpret that lack of structure as being lost.
I remember finishing university and feeling this profound sense of, now what?
Yep, the great void.
And because there was no clear next grade to go to, I just looked around at what everyone else was doing to figure out what I was supposed to do.
That is the default mechanism for all of us. When the map disappears, we look at the person next to us. If they start running, we start running, even if we don't know where they are going.
We just mimic them.
This is a phenomenon known as pluralistic ignorance.
Pluralistic ignorance. That's a bit of a mouthful. Break that down for us.
It's basically where a majority of group members privately reject a norm, but they incorrectly assume that most others accept it, and therefore they go along with it.
Okay, give me an example.
In this context, you are panicked and you don't know what you're doing with your life. You look at your friend who just got a job at a big bank. You assume they have it all figured out and are totally confident.
Because they're wearing a suit and going to an office.
Right.
But secretly, they are just as panicked as I am.
Exactly. They might be sitting at their desk looking at your Instagram thinking, wow, he's taking some time off to travel. He's so confident. He must know something I don't.
Oh my gosh. We are all bluffing.
We are entirely bluffing. We assume everyone else has the secret manual to adulthood.
We assume they know something we don't.
Right.
But the reality is, nobody knows. Everyone is just improvising.
Everyone is improvising. But this brings us to the myth of the straight path. We expect our progress in life, our career, our relationships, our happiness, to look like a graph with a single line going straight up and to the right.
Always up, always better. Every single year should be better and more profitable than the last.
The dream.
That's the dream, isn't it? Continuous, uninterrupted improvement.
But life isn't a graph on a corporate whiteboard. Life is a zigzag. Sometimes it's a loop. Sometimes it's a really, really long pause.
Yeah.
Think about the hiking analogy. I find this one very helpful to visualize the difference between linear movement and organic movement.
I love a good analogy. Lay it on me.
Imagine life is a vast, wild landscape. It is not a running track. It is a wilderness. Now, you might be climbing a mountain. It's hard work. You're sweating. Your calves are burning, but you are going up.
Okay, I'm climbing the mountain. I can see the view getting better. I feel productive.
But your friend might be walking through a deep, beautiful valley. They aren't going up. In fact, they might be going down relative to your elevation. But are they behind you?
No, they're just somewhere else.
Right. They are seeing flowers you cannot see. They are walking by a river you cannot hear. Or maybe another friend is swimming in a lake.
A completely different environment.
You cannot compare the speed of a hiker climbing a rocky mountain to the speed of a swimmer crossing a lake. It's a different medium. It's a completely different journey.
That is so freeing to think about. Because if I'm swimming and I look over at you climbing the mountain, I might think, wow, he's so much higher than me. I'm failing.
But you're swimming.
I'm wet. I'm in the water. I'm doing a totally different
Yeah.
thing. You cannot be behind someone who is going to a completely different place.
Exactly. And yet, we spend our days looking at other people's mountains and feeling terrible about our valley.
We really do.
Which leads us directly into the trap of modern comparison. Because we aren't just looking at where people actually are, we are looking at a very specific, curated version of where they are.
The highlight reel.
A highlight reel. But I want to go deeper than just saying social media is fake. We know that. We all know that. Yet we still fall for it every single day. We need to talk about why.
Right, because even if I know you used a filter, or I know that you probably took 50 photos to get that one good one on the beach, I still feel jealous when I look at it. Why?
It's because we constantly compare our insides to other people's outsides.
Oof, say that again. That's the nugget right there.
We compare our insides, our doubts, our fears, our insecurities, the messy, complicated reality of being human, the 3.0 a.m. panic with other people's outsides, their shiny achievements, their smiling photos, their seemingly perfect relationships.
It is such an unfair comparison.
Completely unfair.
Because I have full access to my own backstage trauma. I know my sink is full of dishes right now. I know I'm worried about my mom's health. I know I felt super awkward at that party last weekend.
You see all your own mess.
But I look at you and I see a nice suit and a confident smile, and I just assume you have none of that mess. I assume your sink is perfectly clean.
And I assure you, I have a sink full of dishes too. Maybe even more dishes than you. We assume that speed and visible achievement automatically equal happiness. This is what is often called the arrival fallacy.
The arrival fallacy. Is that the idea that I'll be happy when?
Exactly. I'll be happy when I get the promotion. I'll be happy when I finally get married. I'll be happy when I lose those 10 pounds.
We attach our joy to a future event.
We think happiness is a specific destination we arrive at. But human psychology doesn't work that way. When we hit those milestones, the happiness boost is actually temporary. It's called hedonic adaptation.
Hedonic adaptation, meaning we just get used to it.
Yes, we get the big promotion, we feel absolutely great for a month, maybe two if we're lucky, and then we return to our baseline level of happiness. The thrill fades.
So we're sprinting, literally exhausting ourselves, chasing these milestones on the social clock, thinking they are the magic keys to the castle. But when we finally get there, we're just us. Just us, but with a slightly better job title.
And often, we are actually more stressed because now we have the pressure to maintain that new title. We see the promotion on someone's profile, but we don't see the chronic stress that comes with it.
Right.
We see the beautiful engagement ring, but we don't see the difficult, tearful conversations they had the night before.
There is a very destructive word that fuels all this comparison. It's a really small word, but it carries an unbelievable amount of weight. The word is should.
Should. The ultimate enemy of peace.
I should have done this by now. I should be married. I should have more money in my savings account.
When you use the word should, you are fundamentally arguing with reality. You are rejecting the present moment in favor of a fantasy.
You're rejecting reality.
Yes, it is a massive cognitive distortion.
It's basically saying who I am right now in this exact moment isn't good enough.
It is. It takes you completely out of the now, which is where your actual life is happening, and puts you in an imaginary future where you are somehow better, faster, and richer.
But that future doesn't exist.
It doesn't. Should is a thief.
Yeah.
It steals your satisfaction with what is actually here right in front of you.
It really does. It makes me think about if we are constantly looking forward or looking at what we should be doing, we miss the actual pace of things.
We miss the rhythm.
And that brings us to the idea of the quiet pace. Because there's one place that never rushes, never worries about being behind, and yet somehow gets everything done perfectly.
Nature.
Nature. I find this concept so comforting, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second.
That's your...
Nature is also brutal. It's survival of the fittest. Animals eat each other. Isn't nature actually a huge, violent competition?
That is a fair point. There is absolutely competition in nature. Trees compete for sunlight in the canopy. Animals compete for food and territory. But here is the key difference. There is no anxiety about the timing. A tree doesn't look at the flower next to it and get depressed because the flower bloomed yesterday and the tree hasn't grown its leaves yet.
That's true. A rose does not envy a sunflower. They don't have a little botanical conference to decide who is winning the garden.
A flower simply blooms when it is ready. That's it. It responds to the sun, the rain, the soil temperature, and it opens when the conditions are right for it.
For its own specific biology.
Right. It follows its own cycles, its own seasons.
And different things have totally different seasons. This is such a simple concept, but we completely forget it when it comes to ourselves.
We really do.
Like, we know that tulips come up in the spring and mums come up in the fall. We don't yell at the mums and say they're behind the tulips. We just say, oh, it's not their time yet. They'll be here in September.
Exactly. Winter is not behind summer. Winter is just a necessary phase. It's a time of dormancy. And in biology, dormancy isn't death.
Right. It's not just doing nothing.
It's highly active on a cellular level. It's a time of deep rest, of storing up energy, of preparing the ground for the next burst of growth. But in our modern lives, we try to live in an eternal summer.
Oh, that's so true.
We want to be blooming, producing, and harvesting 365 days a year.
Which is absolutely exhausting and, frankly, biologically impossible.
If a tree tried to bear fruit all year round, it would deplete its resources and die. It needs the dormancy of winter to survive. We need to respect our own winters.
Respect our own winters.
Sometimes you are simply in a winter phase of your life. It might feel cold and dark and like absolutely nothing is happening on the surface. But that rest is not wasted time. It is essential preparation for what comes next.
There's a story about bamboo that I really love. I think it fits perfectly into what we're talking about here.
The Chinese bamboo tree. Yes, this is the perfect example of the quiet pace and nonlinear growth.
So for anyone listening who hasn't heard this story, the way it goes is that when you plant the seed for this specific type of bamboo, you have to water it and tend to the soil every single day.
Every day.
But for the first year, you see absolutely nothing. No sprout, just a patch of dirt.
Imagine the level of trust that requires. You are basically watering dirt every single time.
Exactly. And then year 2 comes around, you keep watering, still nothing. Year 3, nothing. Year 4, still nothing.
It's maddening.
To the outside world, to your neighbors looking over the fence, you look crazy. You are wasting years of your life watering a barren patch of dirt.
You look like a total failure. You have nothing to show for 4 years of hard, daily work.
But then in the 5th year, something incredible happens.
Yeah.
The bamboo finally breaks through the ground. And in just 6 weeks, it grows to be 90 feet tall.
90 feet in 6 weeks. Now, the philosophical question is, did it grow 90 feet in 6 weeks, or did it grow 90 feet in 5 years?
It grew in 5 years. Because if you hadn't watered it during those 4 quiet, boring years, the roots wouldn't have been there to support that massive sudden growth.
Precisely. Those 4 years were the root growing phase. The tree was growing underground. It was building this incredibly complex root system, strong enough to hold up 90 feet of heavy timber.
It was doing the invisible work.
If it had shot up in year 1 without those deep roots, the very first strong wind would have toppled it completely over.
That gives me chills, because I think so many of us are in a root growing phase right now. We feel like we're just standing still. We feel like we're just watering dirt while everyone else on Instagram is sky high.
But you are actually building the foundation.
And the root phase is really hard. It's dark. It's boring.
And there is zero applause for growing roots. Nobody can see them. You don't get a certificate for it.
Right. But it is the most critical part of the process. So if you feel like you're behind, maybe you aren't stuck at all. Maybe you are just growing deep instead of tall right now.
Growing deep instead of tall. I really like that framing.
I'm going to hold on to that one. Because sometimes the things that make us feel the most behind the setbacks, the big detours we didn't plan for those, are actually the moments where we grow the deepest roots.
Let's talk about those detours, because very often we feel behind specifically because we had to restart.
Yes. The restart is brutal.
Maybe you changed careers at 30. Maybe you ended a long, serious relationship at 35. Maybe you moved to a brand new city where you literally knew no one.
And those things always feel like losing time.
They do. We fall into the sunk cost fallacy.
That's where you think, I wasted 5 years in that awful job, so I can't leave now because then it was all for nothing. Right.
Right. You think the time is just lost forever. But did you actually lose it? Or did you learn something in that difficult relationship that you absolutely needed to know to be ready for the right one?
You gathered data.
Did you learn specific skills in that wrong job that make you completely unique in your new career path?
It brings us right back to the idea of the straight line. We think a detour is a mistake. We think we took a wrong turn off the highway. But maybe the detour was the only way to find out who we really are.
I highly suggest we replace the word lost with the word exploring.
Exploring. I like the sound of that. But I have to ask, isn't exploring just a fancy, poetic word for not having a plan?
Not necessarily. Think about the emotional difference. When you are lost, you are panicked. You want to be found. You are simply reacting to your environment out of fear.
True.
But when you are exploring, you aren't supposed to know exactly where you are going. That is the entire point of the activity. You are active, you are gathering data, you are surveying the terrain.
That's a really good distinction. If I'm exploring a new city on vacation, I take turns down random streets just to see what's there. I don't feel behind because I didn't go straight from the airport to the hotel.
You're experiencing the city.
Exactly. I'm
Yeah.
taking it in.
And we need to extend that grace to our lives. We need to trust our own timing. Just because you didn't find your life's passion at 21 doesn't mean you missed the boat.
It really doesn't.
History is absolutely full of people who bloomed late. In fact, if you look at career trajectories, early bloomers often make more money initially, but late bloomers, people who try a lot of different things before settling down, often have much higher job satisfaction in the long run.
That makes total sense because by the time they settle down, they actually know what they want. They've tested the waters.
Think about Julia Child.
Oh, perfect example.
She didn't even learn to cook until she was nearly 40 years old. Before that, she worked in advertising and intelligence.
Intelligence. Like a spy.
Yes, if she had forced herself to stick to some rigid plan she made at 20, we wouldn't have her iconic cookbooks.
Or look at Vera Wang. She didn't enter the fashion industry as a designer until she was 40. She was a competitive figure skater and a journalist before she ever designed a dress.
These people weren't behind. They were gathering ingredients, they were building a highly unique combination of experiences that allowed them to succeed later.
The root phase.
Exactly. And often, late bloomers have a much deeper appreciation for their success precisely because they waited for it. They know what it feels like to struggle, to wander, so they don't take the bloom for granted.
That is a really, really hopeful perspective.
Yeah.
It takes the crushing pressure off right now and spreads it out over an entire lifetime.
It gives you room to breathe.
But let's bring this down to the practical level for a minute. We've talked about the social clock, the biology of comparison, the wisdom of nature. But if someone is sitting here listening to this deep dive, and they still feel that tightness in their chest,
That hum of anxiety.
that anxiety of, I need to do more, I'm running out of time,
Mm-hmm.
what can they actually do? How do we tangibly shift our mindset?
The very first shift is to actively focus on the now. It sounds a bit cliche, I know, but stay with me. The feeling of being behind is always a time travel problem.
A time travel problem.
Yes. You are either trapped in the past regretting what you didn't do, or you are projecting into the future agonizing over what you haven't done yet.
Wow. So you're never actually here.
You are never here. But here is the only place where life actually exists. So you have to bring your focus back to today, just today. Look around and ask, what is one small, good thing happening right now?
It could be so small, right?
Yeah.
Like right now, I have this warm cup of coffee. The light is hitting the table in a really nice way. I'm having a good conversation. That's it. That's the joy.
That is the quiet pace. Finding joy in a simple conversation, in a walk around the block, in taking the time to make a nice dinner for yourself.
Just living.
These aren't milestones. You cannot put enjoyed a really good cup of coffee on your LinkedIn profile, but they are the actual texture of life. If you rush past all of them just to get to an arbitrary finish line, you miss the entire race.
You miss your own life.
This really aligns with the concept of JOMO, the joy of missing out.
JOMO. I love that. So instead of FOMO, the fear of missing out, it's being actively glad you're exactly where you are.
Exactly. Being deeply content that you aren't at that crowded networking party or on that exhausting, expensive vacation because you are here doing this and this is enough.
That is a powerful shift.
And secondly, we have to do the hard work of redefining success. You have to actively challenge the definition of success that you inherited.
We have to look at that invisible checklist we talked about earlier.
You have to look at it and then you have to rip it up and write your own. Ask yourself, what does success actually look like for you? Not your parents, not your boss, not society, you.
For me, I used to think success was, being famous or having a huge corner office with a glass desk.
The classic movie version of success.
Right. But the older I get, the more success looks like Just having time to read a book in the morning, being able to sleep well at night without grinding my teeth,
Mhm.
having 2 or 3 really good friends I can rely on.
That is a beautiful, deeply sustainable definition of success. Is success a big corporate title, or is it peace of mind?
I'll take peace of mind any day.
Because I know plenty of people with huge titles and massive bank accounts who are utterly miserable. And I know people with very modest, quiet lives who are deeply, deeply content. A fast life isn't necessarily a good life. A slow, thoughtful life is just as valuable.
And realizing that you actually have the power to choose that definition, it's scary, but it's also incredibly empowering. You get to decide what game you are playing.
And you can change the rules of your game whenever you want. If you spent 10 years chasing a career and finally realized it made you miserable, you are allowed to stop.
It's not a trap.
That isn't failing. That is pivoting. That is wisdom.
So as we start to wrap up this deep dive today, let's just take a breath. We have covered so much ground here.
We really have.
We talked about how that feeling of being behind is this universal heavy thing, totally rooted in our evolutionary need for status and belonging in the tribe.
We talked about the social clock, that invisible timeline from the 1950s that we all blindly follow, and how the factory structure of our education system tricks us into thinking life is just a straight conveyor belt.
When really, life is a hike with valleys and mountains and lakes.
We talked about the comparison trap, how we constantly compare our messy, complicated insides to everyone else's shiny, filtered outsides.
And how the word should and the arrival fallacy just totally steal our joy in the present moment.
And we looked to nature. We talked about the Chinese bamboo that spends years growing roots in the dark before it ever shoots up. We remembered that seasons exist for a reason, and that your personal winter, your dormancy, is absolutely necessary for your next summer.
And finally, we talked about giving ourselves permission to be explorers instead of just feeling lost.
Right.
About ripping up the inherited checklist and redefining success entirely on our own terms.
It all really comes back to one simple thing: kindness. You have to be kind to yourself. You're doing something incredibly difficult. You are navigating a highly complex, unpredictable life with absolutely no map. Give yourself some credit for how far you have already come.
I think that is the absolute perfect place to leave it. But I do want to leave you sitting here with us with one final thought to carry with you today.
A parting thought.
If you feel behind, maybe it's just a reminder to stop looking at all the other runners. Stop looking at the person in the other lane, and instead just look down at your own feet.
Look at where you're standing.
Look at the path you are actually on. Ask yourself, is it a path you like? If not, you can change it. But you don't have to run. You can walk.
You are right on time for your own life. You haven't missed your boat because you are currently building your own boat.
Building your own boat. I love that. Thank you so much for sitting with us in the Curious Room today. It's always a pleasure to unpack these heavy things with you.
It really is. Take care of yourselves out there.
We'll see you next time. Goodbye.